Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for episode 136 of the MeepleCore Gaming Podcast. I am your host, Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple, and in this episode, I talk about Heul doch, Guardian's Call, Dinosaur World, and give some thoughts on my Final Fantasy XIV experiences so far, and much more. Alexa, ask a random question.
Here's a question for you. What would be the worst thing for the government to make illegal?
Games. Or any kind of media, really, man. You know, not even speaking from trying to, political point of view or anything like that. Just any kind of media. You know, if they banned any kind of games or music or books or media in general. I mean, just forms of entertainment. Could you imagine how terrible that would be? It didn't even matter the political message if there was one. I'm just talking, just take an abstract game, right? There's nothing behind it and you're banning any kind of form of entertainment. That's crazy talk. I don't know about all that. That would be bored. I'm sure there's other things like maybe banning water. That would be bad too. But now you're just getting in the form of ridiculousness, but who knows? Anyway, we're going to end that one before it gets too political. Anyway, welcome back to the MeepleCore Gaming Podcast. This is Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple, and I do not have anybody with me this time again. George is still going through his new job, and we're kind of lining up some things. However, Matt will be joining us on the podcast, probably maybe every other one, just because the way we do our gaming group now. We do 1 week where we're playing online and the next week we're playing in person, and he's only able to make the ones in person. So since this is a weekly podcast, he's basically going to, or at least I'm going to try to get him to join the episodes where we have played physical games and he can actually chime in on all the stuff that we're talking about that episode. Plus, now that we do kind of like an hour and a half-ish podcast, but a little bit shorter where it's just me, it's way more attainable for him because in the past, we were recording pretty late. He gets up really early. George and I were not until now when George gets up super early for school to do his sign language translation stuff. So anyway, things are going through a little bit of transition. I really appreciate you guys sticking around who are still listening to the podcast and don't mind listening to one person at a time. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't really like listening to one person talk usually. So it's kind of ironic for me to do this, but I want to keep the train going, if you know what I mean. I actually like having probably 3 to 4 people on the podcast. I wish we can get back to that. Maybe one day we will. We will for sure get back to at least 2, with George. And then hopefully the weeks that we have Matt, we'll have 3. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I'd like to hear some feedback. If you want to send it to meeplecore@gmail.com. Let me know if you actually enjoy listening to just me, or if we should, or if you want to hear anything else. Like if you have ideas, like if it's just Tim, what kind of stuff do you want me to talk about? I don't mind talking about games because some of these games I played without George. So maybe I'm just, because we play those games at Eric's on game nights. So it really works for me to have this time to talk about those games. Although I do like when he chimes in as well, have somebody bounce things back and forth with, or somebody ask questions and then you're like, never thought about it like that. So there's a lot of cool things that we can do on the podcast. I just like to hear what you guys think. If you enjoy what you're hearing, just tell me that too. You can tell me it by emailing me, or even if you just go to one of our social medias, or iTunes or not iTunes, but Apple Podcast or Google Play or whatever, and give us a review and say it in the comments there. That would be the best thing to do, especially if you really like the podcast, because it helps the equations and the mathematical stuff behind it get us in front of other people so they can download it as well. All right. So before we hop into the games that we're going to talk about, I'm going to tell you some things I've been up to, which is really just one big thing, and that is Final Fantasy XIV. Now, I know I have mentioned this before on a previous episode, or maybe the last episode that I just started playing it. I'm about 35 hours into the game, which for an MMO is basically nothing. but it is very, very fun. There are a couple of things I'm kind of meh about, and then there's a lot of things I'm excited about. This game reminds me a lot in comparison to Guild Wars 2, with some World of Warcraft stuff in there. But it does have some shoot back, to Final Fantasy XI, which in turn had some throwback to EverQuest. So it's got a lot of cool stuff tied in. I like the way they did their dungeons. They've incorporated them into the main storyline, which is the main way to play the game. You're running through. There's a lot of side quests that you want to do, but you can save those for your other character classes, because every character class you can level up on one character, which is also fantastic. You don't have to have like 6 or 7 characters that you log between if you want to try different things out. You simply just get the first starting quest, which is, just available, and you equip the weapon, and that's it. Now you're that class. It is fantastic. I love that. But once you are playing through the game, you're mostly going to be focused on the main story objectives and not so much going through and doing the side quest. Now, you will go back and do the side quest typically if you're leveling up another class or job, but the main story quest is where it's at, and you're going to be going through that at a rate where you almost level with it, so there's no need to do anything on the side. As of right now, I'm way higher than my main story quest level, and so it will drop your level down on some of these quests, which means you can't use certain abilities and skills or spells, because you don't want to overpower it, I guess. But they do level sync you to that. There's these little fate things that happen. I believe that happen a lot in, I want to say Guild Wars 2, but I also think it happened in WildStar as well, where these like public events happen on the main map and you can just join it. They're level appropriate to the zone. And you go and jump in the little area, and then you fight the guys. You get level synced to whatever level that thing is, usually the max level. So the max level of that fate is like 18. Then you'll be, drop down to level 18 and you'll fight there. And what I really like about that is that it gives you a way to get more experience. There's more achievements and things like that in the background. It's just another way to level up without having to go out of your way to pick up quests and go, do specific objectives. You kind of just fight them along the way when you're doing the main storyline. But overall, the game is really good. Like I said, I played it for about 35 hours. I'm in the level 40s or so. So far, the character class that I'm playing, which is the Summoner, has a lot of cool abilities, like flashy effects and things like that. Not too difficult. There are a lot of classes that have these crazy combos that you have to go through. Those, they interest me a little bit more than the Summoner, because the Summoner is kind of standing still when it's doing these abilities. You don't do a lot of movement. You have to kind of plan your movement, because every bad guy might have those ground effects that draw out an area, and you have to get out of that area before it does damage. And so you have to plan your spells around that. Like, this spell cast is like 3 seconds, so I need to stop it, move out of the way. Maybe while you're walking, you cast an instant spell, and you get to a position where you're outside that range, and then you cast something new. So there's a lot of movement built into the strategy of the fights or tactics of the fights. And I like that as well. That's one thing I've really, really liked about WildStar. And that is here. I think every game needs ground effects, or it shows where the AoEs are, and not just some crappy, particle effect that you almost can't tell where it starts and ends. Because then you're like, man, I thought I was out of that, but it barely hits you because the collision is a little bit past the particle effects. Anyway, good stuff. I am looking forward to trying some other classes. I have started a Dragoon, and I've gotten that one up there, but that's a bit of a cheat, because you can purchase these items that will boost you up. And so I purchased this item from the store. It was like $18, and it made my Dragoon instantly level 70. And the 2 reasons I did that actually wasn't so I can skip the levels. It's just that when you're playing a class that is lower level than your max level class, you get 100% experience bonus for any monsters that you kill. And so when you're going through these dungeons and things and fighting the bad guys, you'll get double XP for it. You'll get 100% extra experience for every kill. And that just allows me to get through the game a little bit quicker, because I'm not so much focused on leveling in the game. I'm focused on just playing the story. And I'm okay with skipping a lot of the early game content, because there are 3 expansions and I kind of want to get to the stuff that everybody's excited about. A Realm Reborn, which is the base game, has a lot of cool stuff, but I feel like there's even better stuff past that. And that's where the game really shines from what I understand once you get into the first expansion. Anyway, if you like MMOs, this is definitely one I think you should try out. The only negative to it is that it is subscription based. So a lot of people are going to be turned off to that pretty much immediately. It is $12.99. So it's not like $15, although you can pay a $15 option to have multiple characters. But I don't see a need to do that since with $12.99 you get 1 character slot and each character can be all the classes and all the professions, which are like, leatherworking and mining and things like that. So there's really no need to have an additional character, I don't think, but that's personal preference, I'm assuming. So Final Fantasy XIV is a game I'm going to stick with for a while, so expect a little bit more talking content about it later on in episodes. But for now, we're going to move on. I don't have any news except for there is Epic Games Thursday, which is today, although I haven't looked up the game yet, so I'm not even going to really go over that. But if you want to support the show, check out MeepleCore.com, click on that Humble Bundle partner link, and that's going to take you to Humble Bundle where you can buy, bundles of games, software, books, PDFs, all kinds of stuff. You help out charity, you help us out, and you get lots of cool stuff in the digital format. Anyway, I've got 3 games to talk about this episode. We got Heul doch, Mau. I have no clue if that's pronounced correctly. Guardian's Call and Dinosaur World. So first up, we have Heul doch, Mau. I apologize if I pronounced that completely wrong. This is a game for 3 to 6 players. It is a small card game designed by Leo Calavini. The artist is Marek Blaha, and the publisher is Ravensburger, and this came out in 2019. I'm not even actually sure if this has come out in... no, it looks like it's only been released in German, although the game is language independent. So if you could get a copy of it, you can play it. There are translations to the rules, or at least I'm pretty much going to tell you how to play the game anyway, because there's not that many rules. But basically, you've got a 98 card deck, and you have the numbers 1 through 7, and each of those have 2 copies of the card in the deck. Now, you will start with a random card face up in front of you and 4 cards in your hand. And on your turn, you select a card, and you say, and you obviously want to pick one that you can put on the face-up card that's in front of you. But when you select that card, you then have to apply it to the face-up cards to the people to your left and right. If it matches the color or the number, you have to play it on one of your opponent's piles, which is bad because they get points for those. Or if it doesn't match them, so the numbers on your left and right don't match, or the color doesn't match, you get to play it on your pile, but still only if it matches the color or the number. I mean, I can match both, I guess, too. If you can't do any of that, or you don't want to do any of that, you can play one card face down on your pile as an onion, which is bad, but also the next turn, you can, when it's your next turn, you can play a card. And again, as long as it doesn't match your opponent's numbers or colors, you can play it face up on your stack no matter what, because you can play anything on top of an onion. And that is literally the game up until all the cards have been played. And at that point, you're going to count through your deck. So you don't want to switch the facing of the cards in your deck, and all the onions you set off to the side. And let's say you had 3 onions. That means that every value 3 card in the deck that you've scored will be removed from the game. So you don't score any of those. So the more onions you get, the worse cards it's going to destroy, but only if you have those. At that point, you remove those numbers. So that, like I said, you have 3 onions, you kill off all the 3s, and then all the other cards in your deck you score for the value that they are. And then whoever has the most points is the winner. This game is so simple, but it actually is pretty fun because it's a little bit of a mind game to remember, or I guess a memory game to remember what you have in your deck, what you've scored throughout the round. Because not only are you putting cards there, but your opponents that are sitting next to you are as well. If you can keep track of what you have in your score pile, then it's not as bad to put onions in it because, I don't have any 2s, or I only have 1 3, so I'm okay to go up to 3 in the onions, right? Or 4 or 5. If you get past 7, then you have to do this weird thing where you separate them, I think, and you kill off the 7s and the 1s, or 7s and the 2s, depending on how many onions you have. So, I mean, at that point, you've done really bad anyway. However, it is a fun game because you're sitting there, you got these cards, and you're hoping the person next to you changes the card on top of their deck, or maybe you got this plan, but then the next person that goes before you changes it up because they played a card on their pile, and now the color's changed. You're like, oh man, really? Very simple filler game. I mean, the game's only 15 to 20 minutes probably, even with like 6 people, because it goes pretty fast. I'm sure some people can slow it down as always, but it's a pretty fun card game. I don't know how you would mock this up if you had another game, since this is only a German release, but if you can find a way to do it, or we played it on Tabletop Simulator, actually. I think George owns it now, but you could play it there. It is a worthwhile game. If you like these small little Ravensburger card games that aren't super deep and they have like small amount of rules, this is one I think you should check out. It was quite a bit of fun. I mean, there's not really a lot to the game. It really is just like 98 cards. Yeah, good stuff. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, the game is pretty fast, pretty straightforward, worth checking out. So it's Heuldoch. That's 2 words. Heul doch Mau. Correct me because I'm probably wrong. Next up, we have Guardian's Call. This is a game designed by James Hudson. The artist is Noah Adelman, Lena Cassette, Damian Mamalidi, and the publisher is Druid City Games / Skybound Games. This is a 2 to 5 player game it takes about 20 to 40 minutes. I'm just going to go ahead and say it's a lot longer than that, especially with 5 players. But anyway, this is a bluffing game in which each player gets an action board. And this action board is going to have basically what the 6 cards in the deck do as far as scoring, and also an affinity, which is the only thing different on the player board that each player gets. And it's going to tell you what you gain extra gold from. So for instance, the barbarian will get gold when he gets weapon cards, or the wizard or whatever gets points or gold when they get spell cards, etc. And your turn is pretty simple. I'm not going to go over all the rules, but I'll give you a general concept, right? On your turn, you're going to have a hand of cards, and you're going to choose a player other than yourself to make an offer to. You're going to take as many cards you want out of your hand, as long as they're all identical. So if you have 3 spell cards or 2 villagers or 4 weapons, whatever you want to do, you choose that specific type of card, as many copies as you want. You put it face down in front of somebody else, and you say, you can show them how many cards there are, because you can't lie about how many cards there are. So you can say, I'm going to give you 3 villager cards, and they have to determine if you're lying or not. And if the player gets it right, they get those cards and you get a gold coin. If they get it wrong, you get the cards and they get a gold coin. So the whole time you're trying to basically bluff them into thinking you're lying so that you get the cards, because that's the better outcome typically. Maybe unless you're putting 1 card in front of them or something, because a gold coin does end up doing things for you if you have enough of them. Anyway, the cards though, what they'll do, the shield cards will give you points at the end of the game. So for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus you'll get 3, 6, 10, 15, or 20 points at the end of the game. Spell cards are wilds. You can kind of put them on top of the other cards to add to those cards. So you can make spells shield cards, or you can make a weapon or artifact, or etc. Weapon cards at the end of the game, you get first and second place, whoever has the most points of each. So the first place will get 20 points, second place will get 10. The artifacts, you can change 3 of those in to draw 2 of these treasure cards. These are kind of a double whammy, because they'll give you points, but they also have a special ability. And the way that kind of works, from what I see, is if it gives you a little bit of points, it's going to give you a cool special ability. If it gives you a lot of points, it's going to give you kind of a negative special ability. But the negative special ability is like give somebody else some cards, or draw some cards and pass them out, or, whatever. It's not super negative. It's just going to give everybody else kind of a benefit, but you get a ton of points from the card at the end of the game. The villager cards work slightly different. Each time you gather those, you're going to move up on this little track, this castle track, and there are stacks of VPs on certain spaces, and the first person to get there or pass through it will get to draw the top card or a tile, and that's worth the most victory points at the end of the game, and it goes down from there. So it's kind of a race to gather those points up. When you move on that track, if you land, your final space lands on a space with another player, you get to skip that space. You don't get to move through them. It's not like hopscotch. It's just on the final space you land. If there's people there, you move forward. And so you can cascade a little bit using that. And there's also 2 times during the game, one at the kind of near the end and one at the very end, where you'll get points based on being first or second place on that castle track. The last type of card is a curse, and these must be bluffed, right? So you can't put cards in front of somebody and say, here's 3 curse cards. So you have to be, putting 3 cards in front of somebody and say, these are weapons. If they flip them over because they were wrong and they get them, or, whatever, then if they reveal 1 curse card, they have to sacrifice a card that they've played previously. If they get 2 curse cards, the opponent gets to kill one of the cards. They get to choose. And if it's 3 or more, then the opponent gets to steal one of the cards that you have in front of you and keep it. So there's a little bit of bluffing there, obviously, because you never want to get curse cards. The only other couple of things there are, like you can spend gold to buy a card from the row, because at the end of the turn, you're going to draw back up to your hand size, and there's always like 5 cards on display. You can pay money to take one of those cards and put it into your display. So even if you're having problems winning cards through bluffing through the offers, you can buy specific cards to get the ones you need to go, maybe need one more shield to get up to the 5+ bonus or whatever. If you have 5 gold, you can kill one of the curse cards that's on display, and that gives you 5 victory points. And the last thing is there's these objectives/achievements that will happen. When you set the game up, you will shuffle in near the bottom a council card, and even further down a war card. And the game will keep playing until the council card gets revealed. You do some scoring stuff with the achievements and with the castle track, whoever's first and second place on that. And then you'll keep playing a little bit longer, and then the war card comes out. The game basically, I can't remember if it ends at that point. I think it maybe finishes in the round, and the game ends. And you do the other achievements, because some of them will score on the council or the war phase. And then you count this castle track again, first and second place, and then some other things, and whoever has the most points is the winner. I'm going to start off by saying, if this game sounds like it's similar, it is very close to Sheriff of Nottingham, at least in the bluffing department, because you are giving somebody a hand of cards and saying, here's how many copies of this is 3 apples, right? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. There are some more restrictions in this game than there are in Sheriff, and I don't want to spend this whole time comparing the two, but on that aspect, I got to give it to Sheriff. I like that game so much. And the bluffing to this, the only bad thing about it is if you get it wrong, all you get is a coin. And yeah, the coins add up over time, but they don't add up as much as they would be if somebody put 3 cards in front of you. Because if they put 3 cards in front of you and they're shields and you get it wrong, they're going to get those. 3 shield cards are worth 10 points at the end of the game. You have to lose 3 times in the offer just to get enough coins to buy a shield from the display, which gives you 3 points. So it obviously does not work out in your favor if you are losing a lot. And there's been times when players have lost a whole lot, of their offers, and even the offers that they give out to somebody else, they get, that player gets it right and they don't get anything, they get $1. And it just really hits you hard in a game, especially if you're playing 5 players, because it is a little bit long. And you can go a long time before it's even your turn again, as far as like offers, because, and I will say, I really like this idea. Each player has a token from all the other players in front of them. And when you make an offer to a player, you flip that token face down, which means you can't offer that player again until you've done all the other players. And then all those tokens reveal again. But there are times when one person will get targeted 2 or 3 times by multiple people. And then, it'll go a long time before they're targeted again, because everybody's kind of offered them. Even if you flip your tokens back up, you can do other people. You don't have to do them in the same order. So there could be a large gap in time between doing an offer to the same player. And yeah, it's probably not the best strategy to do anyway, because that kind of allows them, if you do that huge gap, that allows them to maybe jump ahead well on certain tracks, on the castle track and things like that. But that actually might fluctuate based on each game that you play in the number of players. So it's not as bad early on, like if you have like a 3-player game or something, but with a 5-player game, that can happen throughout the game sometimes. And it just, the downtime is really long at that point. You're always going to have a turn, in turn order. It's just that it feels good when you're getting offers kind of often. Every couple of people, you're getting an offer. Now it's your turn. You get an offer. Now it's your turn. It just feels better when it's like that. Anyway, I do like the bluffing mechanism, though. There's a lot to consider because you can give somebody 3 village cards. And you're like, why would you give me these village cards? If I move up 3 spaces, I land on the person that's in second to last place, and then I jump up maybe 3 spaces ahead of all of them because they're all clustered together, and it's just too good to be true. And that is a really cool way to bluff your way into first place on that track. There's a lot of things to add into the bluffing, but either way, it's going to come down to a 50-50. They're either telling you the truth or lying. It's just a fun way to get there, I guess. But the second part to that is it doesn't matter because somebody isn't going to get as much as the other person. So I like the bluffing. I don't think this game is for me, but I'm not going to say it's bad. I think it's actually pretty good. I mean, the components are great. The artwork's great. It has really cool miniatures, even though you basically only use them for that track. There's a lot of cool decisions to be made with the bluffing, who you're going to choose first, because, you can bait somebody pretty hard. Here's those villagers. Oh yeah, like I just said, but then it's really curse cards, cool, really cool stuff. It really hits me when I'm playing games that if you're wrong about something, you get nothing. And I don't know, that's just not the style of game I like anymore, I guess. They're fun to play, and I wouldn't turn this down. Yeah, I think with the bluffing game, I'm going to have to go with Sheriff of Nottingham. But I do recommend trying this one. It is pretty good. If you're played out of Sheriff, or maybe you don't even like Sheriff, as long as you like bluffing, this is one you should check out. Really nice setup, really good components. Cool game though, but maybe just not for me. So that is Guardian's Call. And last up on this episode, I'm talking about Dinosaur World. Delight visitors in a park populated by homegrown dinos. Safety waivers recommended. This is for 2 to 4 players, takes 60 to 120 minutes. Designed by Brian Lewis, David McGregor, Marissa Mazura. The artist is Kawachi Moria. Man, we need George back on this podcast. Joe Shawcross, Andrew Thompson. The publisher is Pandasaurus Games. This is a sequel, I guess, to Dinosaur Island, although I don't think they have anything to do with each other other than theme. And then maybe some of the artwork and symbols and things on the icons and everything. But Dinosaur World is definitely, you don't have to play the first one to understand what's going on in this one. And I'm going to quickly go over the summary of the gameplay. I'm not going to go over all the rules though, just to give you an idea. The first thing you're going to do each turn is you're going to draft a resume card, and there's basically a card that has a grid of meeples on it. And these meeples are going to be of different colors. You got white meeples, which are going to make up most of the card. Then you have purple and blue and green and gold. And those are used for specific things, although you can use them anywhere you want. They just get a bonus if they go to a specific spot that requires like such, yellow meeples. Everybody's going to draft those in turn order, which at the beginning of the game is, I think, random. But then past that, each new turn is going to be in whoever has the least amount of points. Once you've drafted those meeples you're going to use for basically the next couple of phases. And one of the phases, you're going to be drafting these tiles out on the main board. And these tiles are, face up, and they're basically different parts of the dinosaur place that you're building, right? You can buy a T-Rex pin, or you can buy, like a roller coaster ride. That's what all the tiles are basically. They're all hexagon tiles. Once you buy those, they're going to go on to the right of your player board, in these little slots, and you're going to build your little amusement park from the left to right, pretty much. The other thing you can use your guys for is to buy these dice that are rolled. This is similar to the Dinosaur Island. These will be DNA, and there's commons and the uncommons, basically the same thing. There's 6 of them. It's the same thing as Dinosaur Island, and that's what you're going to use to actually make your dinosaurs. On top of that, that's pretty much what you're doing in that phase, but you want to save some of your guys for the next couple of phases, because in the next phase, you're going to do this worker placement type of thing on your player board, where you can either upgrade your Jeep or upgrade your security, or you can make your dinosaurs or trade DNA in, or get money. And if you assign the appropriate color meeple to that space, you get a bonus. For instance, security, it costs you money for each space that you put a guy on, but, or when you raise your security, it's going to cost you based on where you are, because there's like a threshold. So if you go up higher and higher on the security, it costs you more and more. But if you put yellow meeples there, you get a discount because it gives you $1 when you put a yellow meeple there as well. However, you can put any color you want there. Same thing with income. If you put green meeples, you get extra $1. If you put purple meeples on the Jeep, you'll get a discount of $1. You can make dinosaurs. There's no specific color for those, but you just have to have the DNA in order to do that and the pin to put them in, because the pin's going to tell you what you need to spin in order to put a T-Rex there, or, Pteranodon or whatever. On top of that, once you build the dinosaurs, your threat meter will go up, and you want that to be equal or lower than your security, because if it's ever above it, at the end of the round, you're going to roll these dice and possibly get threat shields, which I think we called them death shields. I don't know if that's the actual name, but it sounds cool, because you'll get these death shields and those are worth negative points at the end of the game. So you don't want those. After the worker placement thing comes the Jeep phase, where you're going to take these Jeep tokens. You have one on your little welcome tile, and you start with 2 because on the Jeep track, you begin with 2. You can move that further up to get 3, 4, and 5 Jeeps, but you're going to place these Jeeps on an adjacent tile to the Jeeps that are already there to make this little path that it drives through your amusement park, basically. And that's going to activate those tiles. When you activate those tiles, not only are you going to gain what's called excitement, so that, the dinosaur pins that have dinosaurs are going to move you up on the excitement track, but it's also going to enable those special abilities they have, but only if you're able to put a meeple of that color there as well. For instance, the casino, you can put a green meeple, I think it's green, and that's going to allow you to roll all these dice and get income based on your roll. It's like a little gambling type of thing. Or there's other ones that, you put like another color meeple there. I think it's the roller coaster, and that's going to give you excitement level based on it and all the things around it. Now, as you use these tiles, you have to put these markers on them, because it's it gains excitement minus that number on the marker. So the more you use a tile, the less exciting it is, because everybody's kind of experienced it, I guess. So you want to diversify your layout of your amusement park and the Jeep path that you're taking. Halfway through the game, that welcome tile will flip, and you can put it on like the right-hand side, because you're building your amusement park from left to right. So there's a way to kind of utilize the further off tokens later on in the game, but it also kind of makes it harder to do the early on tokens if you haven't used them that many times. Anyway, that is pretty much one round. The excitement's going to give you income, and then you obviously are going to get points for the dinosaurs and everything like that. And then you start a new round, and whoever has the least points will begin that new round in that specific order. So it helps to be kind of like behind a little bit first, and then you want to jump ahead early, like later rounds. There's also these objective tiles that you can complete. When you complete those, just like any other game, if you're the first person to have like 2 of each type of dinosaur, you get to put an achievement there and gain those points at the end of the game or whatever. 5-to-1 ratio, I think, for gold, money or whatever at the end of the game for points. And that's it. That's pretty much it. You will play this 5 times essentially, and whoever has the most points wins. I'm not going to compare it too much to Dinosaur Island, although I will say I did enjoy this one quite a bit more. I really liked it. What you're doing. I like the fact that you get these meeples and you're basically like, man, I got 3 phases I got to spin these meeples in, and you're kind of planning out what to do. Your plans get a little bit interrupted based on the tiles that other people purchased, because maybe you're trying for a specific achievement and it needs these types of tiles, but somebody just bought the one that you could buy this round. You know, like, well, now I've got a blue meeple or a yellow meeple free. What can I do with them? It has a really cool sense of balancing act between your security and threat, which the first game did as well. A lot of really cool just planning. This game is a very planning game. Like, what am I going to do this round? What do I need to do? If you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and assigning things out, you're not going to do too well. But it rewards the players who are kind of thinking ahead and thinking about, okay, well, if I put this tile here, then I'm only really going to be able to hit it with a Jeep a couple of times, or maybe I don't care about it with the Jeep. So I'll put it over here instead off to the side and just build dinosaurs in it and not worry about going there. But those are the ones that give you the most excitement for the most part. So really, really well done. I like the components. And as a matter of fact, I really like the coloring to the game, the color palette. I wasn't a big 80s fan, even though I grew up in the 80s. I don't like I don't know. It's kind of a neat color scheme in Dinosaur Island, but it's a lot of pinks and teals and like random kind of, old school 80s TV show kind of colors. And that's neat, but I like the overall aesthetic to this one a little bit better, because the game doesn't just try to be like an 80s mockery or whatever. Like the first one, I guess, was being a mockery, but it's not like, I like it when it's like over the top mockery. That's okay. But I felt like they just like, here's an 80s, game that takes place in the 80s and here's the coloring. And I just didn't feel like it fit well. And this for me is visually more appealing, honestly. The components are great. The dinosaurs are cool. I mean, obviously dual layer boards, all that jazz, really, really fun stuff. Now, some of the components I am speculating on because I did play this on Tabletop Simulator, so I haven't played the physical copy yet, although we will when we get it. But man, really good game. I'm looking forward to playing this again and seeing, I really feel like this one is more replayable. Not saying the other one wasn't. I'm just saying, let's just focus on this one, I guess. This game is replayable to me because you're not going to see a lot of the tiles throughout the entire game. And maybe you go for a different strategy, the different tiles, the achievements really, or objectives, whatever they're called, really do help you decide like, oh man, I'm going to go for that. And you don't see anybody else going for it. So you're like, all right, I'm going to do it first, because some of them multiple people can do. Really, really good game. I am blown away by this one. I will be picking this one up for sure. Very good. That is Dinosaur World by Pandasaurus Games. And with that, we're at the end of this episode. I hope again that you liked it with just me talking. Man, it's rough talking and not having time to breathe. So I apologize if my voice sounds weird sometimes, or if it feels like it's going out or something, because I don't have that little bit of recovery time that, I bounce off of George with. Anyway, hopefully him and Matt will be on the next episode. I believe at least Matt will. That is the plan. So anyway, we're going to wrap this episode up. I want to thank you again for tuning in to episode 136 in the MeepleCore Gaming Podcast. This episode was recorded on August 12th, 2021. Please send your questions and comments to meeplecore@gmail.com. Follow MeepleCore on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Check out the video versions of the show. Until next time, this is Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple. Keep on rocking and rolling dice.